khair, ya Shaykh. Brother, is that what you were looking for, brother? Does that answer your question? Any other questions? No worries. Jazakallah khair. In terms of making up missed fast, what are the conditions for a person that's allowed to break their fast? So you mentioned one is the menstruals.
Sure, yeah. So there are certain situations where if a person doesn't fast, then they will be required to make up those days after Ramadan. And if they want to delay it to the winter time where the days are a little shorter, then that's absolutely fine. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions too in the Quran that those who are ill or that they are a traveler, that they are permitted to break their fast and they will make up the fasts after Ramadan. Now, with regards to the sick person, there's a little bit more discussion on that. Now, as for an illness, which is a temporary illness, i.e. that they're sick for a while and it's hoped that they will recover, then in this situation, this is when they will make up the days in the future because it is hoped that they will recover, inshallah ta'ala. As for a sick person who is permanently ill, and it is, there's medical evidence to say that the person will have this situation permanently and they can't fast because of that, then obviously they don't have to make up any days. They're exempt from fasting. And here in this situation, they pay fidya. Then they pay in expiation for the days that they don't fast. Here in the UK, it's approximately £5 or £6. You can go to, work it out with a charity, and they will be able to determine and tell you how that is going to be paid and how it will be distributed for you, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. And in terms of people are saying the pregnant woman doesn't have to fast. Can you give some clarity on that, ya Shaykh?
Okay, good. So again, with regards to a woman who is pregnant or who is nursing her child. Now, what is the situation with sisters like this? There are times when it's difficult, yes, and there are other times when it's not so difficult. So the origin is, and the starting point is that if there is no mashaqqa, there is no difficulty for the pregnant or nursing woman, then they are required to fast. There's no difficulty on them. There's no difficulty in them if they're nursing their child, for example. There's no difficulty in them having enough milk for their baby. They can quite easily nurse their child throughout the day while they're fasting. In that situation, they are required to fast. However, if they have medical advice, and it's important to get medical advice if you're pregnant and you're going to fast, especially in these long days, if there is a medical issue which may be towards you or towards your unborn child, then you don't fast and you make up those days later on in the year. Similarly, for the woman who is nursing, that if by fasting that she can't produce enough milk and that causes distress to the child, then she doesn't fast for that day and she makes up that day that she missed on this day later in the year. Okay? Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. So we have another question from one of the callers. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. What's your question today for the Shaykh?
Okay, yeah, my question is, basically, if someone is working nights due to the coronavirus...
Brother, if you could speak up a little bit for me, Jazakallah khair.
Hear me now?
Yeah, tfaddal, Shaykh.
Yeah, I was going to say that if someone's working at night, he predominantly works nights outside, and due to the coronavirus, if let's say, for example, it's time for prayer, and there's nowhere else for him to pray except in, like, say, a van or a car, is that permissible for him to still pray? Or does he have to pray on the main road?
Jazakallah khair, brother. So you're saying he can't find a space to pray, so he has to pray in his van or in his car?
No, what it is that basically, due to the coronavirus, because like at the moment, there's quite restrictions on people really going out. So
yeah.
My kind of question was that if someone predominantly works nights and basically they have space to pray, so they could pray on the pavement or they could pray in the road, but would it be permissible for that person to pray in the van due to the current state of the coronavirus, or does he still have to pray on the main road or like a sidewalk?
Jazakallah khair, brother.
Okay. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy if it's you, brother, may Allah make it easy for the situation they're in, and all those who are facing some form of difficulty with regards to the coronavirus. Now, one of the pillars of the prayer is that we are required to pray standing, unless a person has an ailment or is sick and they can't do that, so therefore they can pray sitting or lying down depending on their situation. Now, the situation that you've described is that you are able to pray outside, and if it is the case that you can find a place outside, and you, with regards to the coronavirus, you have a legitimate reason to work, you're a key worker, then you can't be, be questioned as to why you're out. You have a legitimate reason to work. So what I would suggest to you is that if maybe you can take with you some form of prayer mat or some form of material or mat that you can pray, and no one's expecting you to make the salah on the bare pavement. Okay, if you want to take something with you, and alhamdulillah, ardullahi wasi'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's earth is spacious, and we know that the Prophet ﷺ told us in a sound hadith that جُعِلَتْ لِي الْأَرْضَ مَسْجِدًا وَطُهُورًا, that the whole earth has been made a masjid and a place of purification. So maybe you can find a quiet place, you can take out your mat, you can offer your salah. Maybe, I don't know if it's just one prayer or maybe two prayers. You're not required to pray them too long, so if you feel there's an issue with that, but take something with you, but you would be required to pray outside and not in the car. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Does that answer your question, brother? Assalamu alaikum, brother. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. That was a big help. So, exactly. Okay. Alhamdulillah.
Barakallah fiqh, Jazakallah khair, brother. So one of our YouTube comments is he seems like he's in education, and he's asking to make dua for him for a good qualification and a job. May Allah make it easy for you. Ameen. So we've actually got another caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To yourself and Shaykh Wasim Kempson.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Fadal, ya brother. What's your question?
Yes, calling back again. First clarification about the previous question I asked when the woman's cycle starts while she is fasting. So it is invalidated. So is it permissible for her now to start eating and drinking rather than waiting to the iftar time? That was first clarification. And the second question is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim being part of Surah Al-Fatiha, one ayah. Why is it not commonly recited loudly during the salah?
Jazakallah khair, brother.
What is the example from the practices of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Jazakallah khair. So there's two questions there. Fadal, ya Shaykh.
Yeah, so the first question with regards to if a woman is, starts her menses in the day, or she begins praying in the middle of the day. So let's say, for example, there's 4 or 5 hours before Salat al-Maghrib. That day doesn't count for her. Is it permitted for her to eat and drink? Yes, it is permitted for her to eat and drink in that day. The day doesn't count for her, okay, regardless of whether the menses started or finished. So she can eat and drink on that particular day, inshallah ta'ala. I know that there is another view saying out of respect for the day that she should refrain from eating and drinking. However, because the day doesn't count for her, she's ma'dhura, so therefore the application of the rule that she doesn't have to eat and drink on that day is not to her, inshallah ta'ala. The second question with regards to Surah Al-Fatiha and the Basmala, the ulama have differed as to, is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, is this the first ayah or not? Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, for example, views that the Basmala is the first verse of Surah Al-Fatiha. Where the other ulama, they view that the Basmala is not the first verse. So there's a legitimate difference of opinion with regards to that. As for the recitation, now we do find that the majority of ahadith, the majority practice of the Prophet ﷺ in the loud prayers is to say the Basmala, to say it quietly. However, there are a number of narrations from them, Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, that he said that from time to time I heard the Prophet ﷺ, as well as Abu Bakr, as well as Umar radiyallahu anhuma, that they would say the Basmala out loudly. So this shows that it is permissible to say the Basmala out loudly when you're required to do so. However, the majority of the view that you say it quietly and that you would start with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, ya Shaykh. Does that answer your question, brother?
Yes, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair kathira. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Barakallah fiqh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, ya Shaykh, in the topic of prayer, we know that in the prayers of the nawafil prayers, we should make dua, we should increase in dua. I just wanted to ask, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and you could correct me if I got this wrong. He says in whereby you should make dua just before the salam and after the tashahhud. Can you give some clarity on that?
Yeah, so there are a number of places where the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to make dua in the salah. And you mentioned one of the places, and as we know, hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, in which she stated that An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam كان يستعيذ من أربع, that he ﷺ would seek refuge from four, and that would be at the end of the salah. Okay, whether it's Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr wa min adhab jahannam, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min fitnat al-mahya'i wal-mamat, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min fitnat al-masih ad-dajjal. So you seek refuge from four. That is the punishment of the grave, the punishment of the hellfire, the fitna of the life and trials of life and death, and also the Antichrist, the Dajjal. So this is recommended, highly recommended for you to make the supplication for against, seek refuge in Allah Jalla wa Ala from these four things. You can also make your own dua after that as well, whatever matters you wish. So this is one very good place to make dua, as well as in sujood. As we know that the Prophet ﷺ said, أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ لِرَبِّهِ وَهُوَ سَاجِدٌ, that the closest that a servant will be to their Lord is when they are prostrating. فَأَكْثِرُوا فِي الدُّعَاء. So therefore be proficient and say lots and lots of dua while you are in sujood. And I would say is that for brothers and sisters to really concentrate making dua in your salah, and not necessarily have to save it after salah. So sometimes they pray normal, and then they spend 15 minutes after the salah with dua. Okay, that's fine, make dua. But why didn't you use the opportunity in your salah to make that dua? Wallahu ta'ala alam.
And does this apply for the wajib fard prayers and the nawafil prayers, or which one do you
Yeah,
can you
so
do for?
with regards to the dua and the prayer, then for the person who doesn't know the Arabic language, and I was having previously taken opinions before that it is in the nafila prayer permitted, but in the Arabic, in the fard prayer, you should stick to the Arabic. However, there are a number of fatawa from them Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, amongst other great ulama, who permit if the person does not know the Arabic language, and this is a condition, if you don't know Arabic, then you would be required to you say the dua in Arabic. But if you don't, and you want to make dua in the salah, in sujood, in your own language, it is permissible for you, whether it is in fard or nafila. Wallahu alam.
Jazakallah khair, ya Shaykh. So we have our next caller. He's actually from Italy, mashallah, tabarakallah. So an international caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam, brothers. My question is, during the month of Ramadan, when is the best to pay your zakat?
Jazakallah khair, brother.
And then the second one is, to whom can you pay your zakat to?
Jazakallah khair, brother. Just, where are you calling from, Italy?
Yes, please.
MashaAllah. May Allah make it easy for you. So, so the question was, when is the best time to pay the zakat in the months of Ramadan?
Okay. So with regards to zakah, the one will work out when 1 year has passed with the threshold, the nisab with you. It depends really. I mean, it might be, it could be, you need to find out yourself. When 1 year has passed on your wealth, that your savings have reached the nisab, and it might be, it could be the beginning, it could be the middle or the end of Ramadan. You need to find that when that is, inshallah. And when you find that date, then don't delay, inshallah. Make sure that you discharge the zakah to those recipients as soon as possible, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. And the second question was, to whom can you pay your zakah?
Okay, very good question, and a very important question. So this is not an issue that has been left to us, actually, where we give our zakah. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions 8 different categories in Surah At-Tawbah, chapter number 9 and verse number 60. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions those whom you can give your zakah to. Okay, so from the poor and the destitute, those who are the zakah workers, those who are working in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who are travelers and left in, they don't have anything with them, or those who are also close to Islam, those who have debts. It's very strict that the zakah goes to these categories only. And I would assume that if you are not sure how to do that, speak to the ulama, the scholars of Italy, and maybe speak to some charities whom you can give your zakah to, and then they can dispose of it or discharge it in a way which is according to the Sharia, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair. Does that answer your question, brother?
Yes, please.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. So we have another caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from London.
London. And how old are you?
I'm 10 years old.
10 years old. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Have you got permission from your parents to ask the question?
Yes.
MashaAllah. So please do ask the Shaykh.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My question is that when you're in the middle of doing your wudu and you see a dry place in your body, are you allowed to wipe it with water, or can you go and pray?
Okay, very good question.
Jazakallah khair.
So, if I can mention, during the life of the Prophet ﷺ,
Tafadhal.
he sees a companion who had made wudu, and then on the back of his heel there was a dry spot.
Okay.
So the Prophet ﷺ warned him. He said, be careful your heels from the fire. So here we understand from this hadith, it is very, very important to ensure that those parts that need to be washed, or that the water reaches those parts, it is a must. We can't leave dry spots. Okay? And if we do the wudu correctly, not rushing it, inshallah ta'ala, we will ensure that the water reaches all of those body parts. So doing it 3 times, which is from the sunnah, will inshallah ta'ala ensure that those places, like your face and like your arms, okay, and also your feet, which all have to be washed, if you do that 3 times, inshallah ta'ala, then you won't have any worries. If you find that there is a dry spot, you will need to go back to that spot, okay, make sure it's wet, and then complete the wudu from that position until the end, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair. Does that answer your question?
Jazakallah khairan.
Barakallah feek. Jazakumullah khair. So in terms of the wudu, we know, what's the ruling in terms of the socks, wearing the socks and doing wudu and wiping over the socks?
Okay, mashallah. So if we can categorize the socks into 3 different types of socks, okay. So the first one is the leather sock, which all scholars agree you're allowed to wipe over as long as you put that sock on in a state of tahara. As long as you made a fresh wudu, washing your feet, and then you put the sock on immediately, okay, no, you didn't break your wudu, you put the sock on, you can wipe over it, no problem. Then there's a second type of sock, which is at the bottom is leather, and at the top is some material. Okay, here, as along with the other sock, which is completely like made of the socks that we buy from the shops, but it's made from wool or cotton or polyester mix, whatever the case may be. Here the ulama have differed. Are you allowed to wipe over this? There is one view that says you can only wipe over the leather sock. The other view is that you're allowed to wipe over a sock which is made other than leather, and they put some conditions to that, i.e. that it covers your whole foot, okay, and that it's not see-through. Some scholars, they add some other conditions like you're able to walk a certain distance in that, okay. What seems to be the strong view, and this is not dismissing, of course, the other views, is that we have clear practices from the companions that they would wipe over socks that are from other than leather. But on a condition it's not see-through. If they're see-through, you shouldn't wipe over it, okay? But if it's like a black sock, it doesn't have to be, from wool. If it's like a polyester mix with cotton or something like that, inshallah, you're allowed to wipe over that. Even if the water, the person says, well, it seeps, it goes through to my skin underneath. We say, la ba's, it's allowed for you to do that. Bearing in mind that there is a difference of opinion on that. But inshallah ta'ala, it's allowed for you to wipe over it as long as it's fixed to your foot, it goes above your ankle. It's not those ankle socks that go below your ankle, you can't wipe over this. It has to be above your ankle. And it's not see-through, then you can wipe over it as long as you put it on in a state of tahara, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair, ya Shaykh. So we have another caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Tafadhal, brother. What's your question? If you could speak a little bit louder, brother, for us.
My question is regarding Taraweeh and also voluntary prayers. When reciting Ar-Rahman, are we required to reply to the verse فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمْ تُكَذِّبَانِ? And if so, how do we reply to this when reciting it?
Jazakallah khair, ya brother.
Yeah. So the brother is saying that when you recite Surah Ar-Rahman, And there's a verse, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Are you required to respond to that? Then answer no. In your salah, you don't respond to it. You just recite through your salah. You finish the surah. And there's nothing for you to do. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair. And in another verse that just came to my mind, it says in Surah Al-Ahzab, "O you who believe, Ya alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima."
Naam.
Do we then send salawat on the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when we do recite that verse?
Indeed. So yes, the verse in Surah Al-Ahzab where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Is this, we do this in salah? We don't. We continue with the recitation. So there are times where when you hear the command to, or you hear the Prophet ﷺ's name, then you say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But in your salah, you don't. In your salah, you don't do that. There is, if I mention, that when the Prophet ﷺ used to recite the night prayer, and that there were certain verses talking about the rahmah of Allah Jalla wa Ala, and some verses talking about the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would ask for Allah Jalla wa Ala's mercy under his breath and seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay.
Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, ya Shaykh. Does that answer your question, brother? So next caller, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
What's your, where are you calling from?
London.
London. And how old are you?
I'm 8 years old.
MashaAllah. Do you have your parents' permission to ask the Shaykh the question?
Yes.
Faddal, ask the Shaykh.
Dogs are haram to have a pet if you're Muslim, but how about if you're blind and you can't see anything? Are you allowed to have a dog as a pet?
Jazakallah khair.
Okay.
So the question was, so obviously we know we can't have dogs as pets.
Sure.
However, are you allowed to have a guide dog if you're blind?
Yeah. Right, so on this issue, we'll start from the beginning, and that is that having dogs in our homes as pets is not permissible for us. There's only certain reasons that we can keep dogs, can own dogs. Now, let's say, for example, a young child is blind. No doubt that's a great test. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for them and for their family. Then their family will be there to support them. So in a situation like this wouldn't necessarily be a darura. In general terms, wouldn't necessarily be an absolute necessity to have a dog for a child so young. But for example, a person who's maybe living on their own, who needs to get out and about and has absolutely zero support, maybe there can be some dispensation for that individual to have a guide dog. Okay, so it's really on a case-by-case kind of a situation whether a ruling can be given, whether that person can have a dog as a guide dog rather. So I would do this. I would take this approach. Does my situation qualify for a guide dog or not? But not just a blanket answer, yes or no.
Jazakallah khair. Does that answer your question? Jazakumullah khair. So we have one time for one last caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, caller.
Jazakallah khair. Does that answer your
Barakallah. Can you speak a bit louder? Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Can I?
Please go ahead. Jazakumullah khair. So, Jazakallah khair, Shaykh, for your time today. May Allah accept it from all of us. Ameen. May Allah reward you immensely.
Ameen. Barakallahu feek.
It was always a pleasure to have you on the show. Jazakallah khair.
I hope that we can have a few more shows together, inshallah ta'ala. You asked some very, very good questions, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair. I've still got a list for maybe next time, inshallah.
No worries.
We could meet on the show and ask the question.
If you want to ask after the show, you can do it as well.
Definitely. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Jazakallah khair,
May Allah
Shaykh.
bless you, brother.
Jazakumullah khair for tuning in with Ask Eman. May Allah accept it from all of us. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Professional, bro. MashaAllah.